Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Code Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. We have reached a point in our recitation where we are at a Bani with the title of Ik Oankar Sadgur Prasad, which of course means oneness that is realized through the insight of the true enlightener. Srirag ki var mahalla chautha sloka naal. So we have arrived at a point where we are going to recite a poetic form called the var, which is in the nature of a ballad, or these were paeans that was sang eulogizing kings. The eulogy here, of course, is to the One, Akal Purukh. There are 22 such var compositions in the Guru Granth Sahib. We'll talk a little bit about this var. This one says Slokanal, and that signifies that this var is accompanied by sloks, which is another literary form, very predominant in Gurbani. And the accompaniment of sloks is meant to distinguish this particular var composition from other vars in the Guru Granth Sahib that do not have associated sloks. For example, Basant ki var, Satte Balwand ki var do not have sloks associated with them. This one has two, both composed by the third Nanak, Guru Amar Das, and the var itself consists of paudis, which means a ladder or steps, and Srirag ki var has 21 paudis, all composed by the fourth Nanak, and he has, of course, attached sloks composed by the first, second, and third Nanak with them. Mix and match, and we'll see how they are attached to the different paudis. Typically, in a paudi, the meaning or the gist tends to be towards the end. This particular one, the first one, has two sloks followed by the paudi. So what we will do is try to go with the sloks first in order, and then to the paudi. We'll experiment by reading it in that way. So it begins as Ik Oankar Sadgur Prasad Srirag ki var mahalla chautha sloka naal. That is to say, the var composition in Srirag, composed by the fourth Nanak, accompanied by sloks. And then it begins, Salok Mahalla Tija. So let me read the salok. Raga Vich Srirag hai, je sach tare pyar, sada har sach man vasai, neh chal mat apar, ratan amolak paya, gur ka sabad vichar, jehva sachi man sacha, सच्चा शरीर आकार, नानक सच्चे सतगुर सेविया, सदा सच वापार. So, Raga Vich Srirag hai, je sach tare pyar. First among the rags is Srirag. Siri, of course, signifies supreme, exalted, the first. It is the first rag to appear in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji on page 14, runs through page 94. It's the fifth rag listed in the rag mala at the end. But the Guru here is saying it's first among the rags only if it inspires love of truth. Raga Vich Srirag hai je sach tare pyar. And then, if it does inspire love of truth, sada har sach man vasai, nehchal mat apar. Then the har self comes to dwell in the mind, meaning you make a connection with your true self, and then the mind is embedded in divine excellences. Nehchal mat apar. Nehchal means unwavering. So the wavering mind becomes stable. It finds its equilibrium and is imbued with the excellences of the self, the guns. And then Ratan Amolak Paya Gur Ka Sabad Vichar. This priceless jewel is obtained or found by reflection on the discourse of the true enlightener. The true enlightener here is the Gur. Sabad is the discourse of the enlightener, and so Sabad is also a signifier for the creator, and the creator is sound, so this is a continuum that runs from unheard sound to our speech. What happens then is Jehva Sachi Man Sacha Sacha Sarir Akar. The tongue becomes pure, the mind becomes pure, the body form becomes pure. So it's important to understand what purity really represents. For something to be pure means that impurities from it have been distilled out. So the impurity in us, as far as Gurbani is concerned, is the ego sense, the ego consciousness, which clouds our essential self. That's the impurity. But when you connect with your self, with the Har self, purity. In other words, you get rid of this ego consciousness that otherwise drives us. And Sarir typically refers to the body, but we have to remember that in the Indian systems, when they say Sarir, they're really talking about the psyche, because the belief is that what you see as flesh really is the outermost layer of a psychic system within, which may not be discernible to us through the eyes. And then Nanak Sache Satgur Seriya Sada Sach Vapar. So it all boils down to following the discourse of the Satgur or the enlightener. And now we are on to the second slok, which is again Mahalla Tija. Hor birha sab tat hai, jab lag sahib preet na hoye. Now he switches from establishing connection with the self to our default condition, to the condition that we are all in, which is Hor birha sab tat hai, jab lag sahib preet na hoye. So the only true bond, permanent bond, is the one with the master self, the self within. All else is fleeting. So the message is that we are all creating bonds or seeking bonds that are fleeting, untrue, unreal, and will only result in disappointment. We're missing the mark, so to speak. How is that happening? Eho man maya mohya vekran sunan na hoy. This mind, mohya, mesmerized, hypnotized by Maya. Maya is the world play around us, the world that our senses and our system communicates with, the allure, the temptations that are around us. So we are mesmerized by that. And then, Vekran sunan na hoy. Vekran sunan na hoy, what is it that we can't see or listen to? It means simply that we lack awareness or discernment of the self within because we are hypnotized by Maya around us. Se dekhe bin preet na upajay, anda kya kare? So devotional love cannot arise within us, which is a precondition, without having some discernment, some grasp, some understanding of what this self is or who we really are. So in other words, we are really flying blind. Anda kya kare? Nanak jini akhi litiyan soi sacha de. Jini akha litiyan. Litiya means to take. Akha, eyes. Here it is the eyes of discernment or knowledge, gur gyan. So those who receive the eyes of discernment from the Satgur, soi sacha de, then they are duty bound to share that with other seekers. So the eye of discernment here is really intuitive awareness that is necessary to understanding the self, because the self is not a material entity, cannot be grasped by the senses. So what you need is a quiet and an unwavering mind in order to awaken intuitive awareness within. So a mind that is Maya Mohaya is not going to be able to cultivate this intuitive awareness. And now we come to the pauri, which goes as follows. Har eko karta ik, eko diban har. The har alone is the doer, is the agency and the judge. That is to say, the dispenser of the law. The law here referring to hukam, the order, the scheme of things. And har ik seda hai amar. The same har rules the universe. Amar means rule. Eko har chittar. And the one har is your support. And this can be interpreted also to mean bear that har in your chit, in your mind. Har tis bin koi nahe, dar param pau dur kar. Understand that there is no other than the har, and it is the remover of fear and self-doubt, because these are the two primary afflictions of haume. Haume lives in self-doubt and it lives in fear. Primal. And har tise no salah je tud rakhe bahar kar. So salaha is glorify, but glorification doesn't mean just singing aloud. It means cultivating the necessary qualities as a sign of thankfulness to the protector har. Har jisno hoye dayal so har jap pao bikhamatar. If you understand the merciful har, you will be ferried across the ocean of existence. That's the pauri. So the cue to us is to begin to understand, at least intellectually, what har is. Because har, as a term, appears closer to 10,000, I guess it has a frequency of 9,000 plus in the Guru Granth Sahib. So that is an indication of how central it is. And it is used to denote the creator self, the supreme being, har, or the self within, har. And it is also used by expressing its attributes, such as prab, which means the light or the wisdom, ram, the all-pervading consciousness, gobind, the protector, sahib, the master, and sometimes as ap, which is the self itself. So the idea is that we must follow the guidance of the true enlightener, because it is only through that instruction, through the discourse of the sabad, that we will gain insight. Gur Prasad. Prasad means insight. We get that insight from the Gur. He's the enlightener. And then the rest follows. With those thoughts, until the next time, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.